The basketball hoop that changed everything. The midday sun blazed relentlessly, heating the back of my neck as I carefully trimmed the rose bushes in my front yard. Gardening was my therapy, my refuge. My little patch of color stood out brightly in this otherwise dull, cookie-cutter suburban street. The rhythmic snip of my pruning shears, the earthy scent of soil, and the vibrant blooms gave me a sense of peace I rarely found elsewhere. That peace didn't last. I heard the screech of tires and instinctively looked up. A minivan lurched to an awkward stop across the street, parked half on the curb. The driver's side door slammed open, and out stomped a woman whose tight blonde bob bounced sharply with each aggressive step. I recognized her immediately. Caroline. Caroline Lawson. If our neighborhood were a monarchy, she'd have crowned herself queen years ago. Self-appointed head of the neighborhood watch, moderator of the hyperactive Facebook group, and an absolute nightmare for anyone who didn't fit her cookie-cutter ideal. She thrived on drama, and today, it seemed, I was her target. I sighed quietly, placing my shears down and wiping my hands on my jeans. She was heading my way, and I had no illusions this was going to be a casual chat. "You!" Caroline shrieked, her manicured finger jabbing the air as she pointed at me like an accusatory dagger. "You need to do something about that basketball hoop situation." I straightened up slowly, rolling my shoulders to ease the tension creeping in. "Excuse me," I replied, keeping my tone neutral, though I could feel my patience thinning already. "My son, Kyle," she began, drawing out his name as if I should be impressed, "needs a place to practice his basketball skills. And I noticed you don't have a hoop. That's simply unacceptable. This is a family neighborhood. Families need basketball hoops." Her tone was soaked in entitlement, like this demand was perfectly reasonable, and I was the one being difficult. I took a breath and replied calmly, "I'm sorry to hear about Kyle's situation, but I don't play basketball. It's my property, and I don't plan on installing a hoop." Caroline's face flushed redder. "Are you refusing to think about the children? Is that what you're saying? You people never think about the community. This is about Kyle's future, his athletic potential, and you're standing in the way." Her words hit me like a slap, but not because of what she said, because of what she implied. I'd lived in this neighborhood for 2 years, and the "you people" comment still came up coded and ugly. But I kept my cool. "Caroline, I'm just trying to enjoy my Saturday," I said evenly. "I'm not stopping Kyle from playing basketball. There's a park 3 blocks away with a perfectly good court." Her nose wrinkled like she'd smelled something foul. "The park? Absolutely not. I don't want Kyle associating with those kinds of people. He needs a safe environment. Right here, where I can see him." I closed my eyes for a moment. "Breathe," I told myself. "Stay calm. I'm not buying a basketball hoop, Caroline. And now, if you'll excuse me, I have roses to prune." I turned my back to her, hoping she'd get the message. She didn't. "Fine," she snapped. "If you won't do the right thing, I'll report you." I glanced over my shoulder. She was pulling out her phone, her thumb poised over the screen. "I'm calling the police. You're creating a hostile environment for children. You're depriving Kyle of his right to play basketball." My jaw dropped as she dialed. This wasn't just ridiculous, it was harassment. I knew where this could go, and fast. So I grabbed my own phone and started recording. 911, what's your emergency?" I heard the operator say, faintly, through her phone. "Yes, hello," Caroline said dramatically. "I'd like to report a disturbance. My neighbor is refusing to provide a safe and nurturing environment for children. He's denying my son access to a basketball hoop. I fear for my son's well-being." My stomach tightened. This wasn't going to end well. I kept the camera steady, capturing every word, every exaggerated expression. "He's being completely unreasonable," she whined into the phone. "I suspect he's up to something. He's always lurking around. I don't trust him." I stared at her in disbelief. Lurking? I work from home. My version of lurking was sitting in front of a computer, designing logos and layouts for clients who rarely paid on time. But Caroline wasn't interested in the truth. She was interested in painting me as a threat. The dispatcher's voice crackled again, and Caroline nodded dramatically. "Yes, I understand. I'm very concerned. Please send someone immediately." She hung up, turning to me with a smug, triumphant look. The police are on their way. They'll sort you out. I shook my head and kept recording. This is harassment, Caroline. Pure and simple. You're wasting everyone's time. Frivolous? She sneered. My son's happiness is not frivolous. You'll regret this. The street was quiet except for the distant hum of cars and the occasional bird call. But behind curtains, I knew neighbors were watching. They always did. Some were probably enjoying the show. Others were already jumping to conclusions. A few minutes later, sirens wailed in the distance. My heart sank. A patrol car skidded to a halt in front of my house. 2 officers got out, their faces serious. Caroline straightened her shoulders, taking on an air of innocent victimhood as they approached. Sir, the male officer began, we received a call about a disturbance. Can you tell us what's going on? I took a slow breath. Officer, this woman, Caroline, has been harassing me because I don't have a basketball hoop on my property. She called 911 with false accusations. I've been recording everything. I held up my phone. The officer glanced at Caroline. She was sputtering already. That's a lie. He's twisting things. I just want what's best for my son. Ma'am, the female officer said firmly, please let him finish. I explained the whole encounter, starting from when she got out of her van. I emphasized her demands, the way she twisted the story, and the racial undertones that made this more than just a petty complaint. The officers listened carefully. When I was done, the male officer turned to Caroline. Ma'am, he asked, is this accurate? Caroline hesitated, then said, well, yes, but he's leaving things out. He's making me look crazy. I just wanted him to be a good neighbor. Is that so wrong? Did you call 911 because your neighbor doesn't have a basketball hoop? The female officer pressed. Caroline's eyes darted. I was concerned. I was worried about Kyle. The officers exchanged a glance. They weren't buying it. I want to press charges, I said. Harassment. Filing a false report. She's targeted me since I moved here. It needs to stop. The officers nodded. Understood, sir, the male officer said. We'll need to take statements from both of you. As I questioned Caroline, I noticed her starting to sweat. She glanced nervously at her minivan. The female officer caught it too. Without a word, she walked toward the van. Her partner kept Caroline engaged, though I saw his eyes shift once. The female officer peered into the back window, then stepped back and pulled out her phone, taking pictures. She spoke quietly into her radio, then returned to Caroline. Ma'am, she said, please open your van. Caroline went pale. I don't understand. Open the van, the male officer repeated. With shaking hands, Caroline fumbled with her keys. She pressed the button, and the rear door slid open. Inside was a treasure trove of stolen goods. Dozens of boxes, electronics, baby formula, medications, all unopened, all brand new. Familiar logos stared back at us from stores like Target, Walmart, and CVS. Ma'am, the female officer asked, can you explain where all this merchandise came from? Caroline stammered. I bought it. For Kyle. All of it, the male officer asked, unimpressed. Without receipts? Neighbors began murmuring. The officers exchanged another look. Ma'am, you're under arrest for possession of stolen property, the female officer said. She read Caroline her rights as she cuffed her. Caroline turned to me as they led her away. This is your fault. You ruined my life. I said nothing. She wasn't worth it. The police called for backup. More officers arrived to inventory the stolen goods. A detective showed up, canvassing neighbors about Caroline's activities. That's when the truth came out. She'd been running a shoplifting ring for months, reselling goods online and at consignment stores. Greed, plain and simple. Do you want to press charges, Mr. Harris? The female officer asked me. Yes, ma'am, I said. Absolutely. She gave me her card and told me to call anytime. But the biggest shock came next. Kyle was taken into protective custody. Caroline's husband had been out of the picture for years. With her under arrest, there was no one left. CPS stepped in. I watched as a social worker led Kyle to a car. He was scared, confused. I felt a pang of sympathy for him. None of this was his fault. In the days that followed, the neighborhood buzzed with gossip. Caroline's fall from grace was swift. The same people who had once hung on her every word now distanced themselves. Some even apologized to me for believing her lies. I accepted their apologies, but trust would take time. As for Kyle, I couldn't get him off my mind. Weeks later, I got a letter from CPS. Kyle was in foster care and doing well. They asked if I'd be willing to mentor him. I didn't hesitate. I contacted CPS and started the process. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. I wanted Kyle to know there was a better way. Not everyone was like his mother. I never did put up a basketball hoop, but maybe one day I would. Not because Caroline demanded it, but because sometimes the smallest gestures make the biggest difference. And maybe, just maybe, a hoop in the driveway wasn't such a crazy idea after all.